Nathalie, welcome to the Live the Width of Your Life podcast. I'm so happy to have you with me.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, Aneta. It's so
Yeah.
cool to meet you. Yeah.
So nice to meet you too. And we have George, our editor, to thank for this. He has just
Yeah.
introduced me to the most amazing women. And I love that he works with so many people in the spiritual space.
Yeah, George is our in common factor book editor, and you said he did a journal for you too. He also edited a journal as well for me as a book. And yeah, he's an amazing person to work with, and I'm grateful for this connection too from him.
Me too. And I'm always so curious. I'm like, I wonder how all of us found our way to George, which is just interesting because I found him on Upworks. How about you?
Yeah, there too. I will say I had worked with another one before, and I also really searched. Yeah, I feel very blessed because I wasn't really happy with a lot of different book
Mhm.
editors that I had crossed before. And with him, it just flows.
It flows so well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you and I also have in common is that we are very multi-passionate. And so whenever people ask me, what do you do? I always tell them I do a lot of different things just because I love it. And it's how I built my business. But you too are
Mhm.
multi-passionate. You do a lot of things. So tell us just a little bit more about what you do and then some of your background and how you found your way into this
Mhm.
space.
Mhm. So I think that primarily I would say 85% of what I do for the past 25 years, so pretty long time, is really yoga. So I found yoga at a very early age, like 10 years old, 11, and then got very passionate about that. Went to college for kinesiology and journalism. But then as I was in college, I was already really going very deep into my yoga trainings, trips to India, and I was teaching at my college. And then that kind of took over in late 40s now. So I've been teaching yoga ever since. And now I primarily do for the past, I would say 10 years is teach yoga teacher trainings. Besides that, I had a yoga studio for 10 years. I also managed and taught at a big yoga studio in Los Angeles for 8 years called Yoga Works. And as I'm talking about our multi passion projects, so I love writing, I love podcasts. I think that connects with my journalism background. So it allows me a venue to do that and write blogs, just all the writings I love and interviewing people. And I can't wait to have you on Life on Earth podcast, by the way. And then I got into Reiki energy healing through being in the health and wellness industry through yoga. So it's really not that disconnected, that what I'm trying to say. And so it just meshed. And that was maybe like a little over 5 years ago. And I felt like I was already doing that anyways, like the energy healing through yoga. And then just through the teacher trainings and all that, coaching and mentoring my students, really all that's like just health and wellness. So even though I have all these different channels of expression, I do feel like they mesh together. You know what I mean? And we are very blessed because we were talking a little bit before we started. I think we're very blessed. And tell me what you think, having these different modalities to be able to express a different facet.
I love it because clients sometimes come to me for one thing. They might come to me for coaching, and then I
Mhm.
introduce them to meditation or I introduce them to breath work, and they are better as a result. And people come in through different ways, and then you're able to share. And I'm such a learner. So for me, I am constantly learning, getting new certifications because I
Yeah.
love it. And then I love to apply it. I'm also, from a human design perspective, I'm a manifesting generator.
Me too.
Oh, I was gonna ask you because 'cause I'm like, we
Yeah.
cannot help ourselves. Like, we always have
Yeah.
10 things going on, but we have so much energy. There's so much energy, and when you're creating, I just feel like this
Yeah.
force, like, channeling through me.
Yes, 100%. I can relate to everything what you're saying. And I think what's so awesome is not to have this sort of put us in a box that we have for people like you and me, not having this sort of 9 to 5 very defined job is
Right.
really a blessing because
Yes.
then we can allow to create our schedule and one
Yeah.
day work on one thing, the other day on another thing. And that's really amazing.
Oh, and because inspiration and creativity strikes differently, and sometimes I'm like, "Ooh, I'm really inspired to go do this and to finish it or to start something new." And I think before I really studied human design, I didn't understand, and I felt like people would say, "You just need to pick one thing," and that just seemed like
Hmm.
a prison, like putting me in a cage.
Yeah.
And so now I feel completely seen and liberated because
Hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm actually when I'm thriving. Like, this feels so good to me when I'm able to do different things.
Yeah, yeah, I've had the same thing. People say that, and it's really, if, as a manifesting generator like you, that's how we function. It's not a bad thing. This is a great thing. And then hopefully we meet other people like generators and that
Yeah.
can keep the ball rolling, have different qualities that can add to the picture of creating a good team. And that's wonderful for everybody to follow their own
Yeah.
purpose and how they need to function on planet Earth. That's a really good thing.
It's so interesting because I had my husband and my 2 daughters take and get their design, and my husband's a generator. My oldest is a projector, and my youngest is a reflector. And so it's 4 of the 5, and that's interesting. It explains a lot, and I think it's actually been really helpful for us in our
Yeah.
conversations with one another. For me, I understand that not everyone's going to be able to do all the things I want. I know for my husband as a generator, give him one thing, let him do it.
Uh-huh.
Don't take them off track. Don't give them too many things.
Yeah.
And then I know my oldest is a projector, needs to nap and needs to
Mhm.
recharge. And so it's really helpful.
Yeah, and the reflectors are such a small percentage of
Like
the
1%.
population, in
Yeah.
1%. So
Yeah.
she's really very sensitive and needs to take her time and to figure things out and giving her the space. That's really beautiful. I don't think I've ever met a family that had all of that in one.
Isn't it so interesting? And I always knew like my reflector daughter was different. She just came out extremely curious and just observant of everyone. And so she just always had this really interesting wisdom about her, like an old soul thing. Like she was always
Mhm.
observing, and you can put her in any room and she'll make anyone feel good. I was like, okay, that's the reflector, interesting quality. Yeah. But you also do human design.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention that. Yes,
Yeah.
so about 3 years ago, I started studying with Erin Claire Jones, who's like a very well known in the human design world, and I was in her first sort of teacher's training and program, and then I did her second one too, and then now I do a mentorship program with her just to have that accountability every month. And it's been amazing just from seeing how it was that first year, that it was so overwhelming to get so much information. And even in yoga, I feel like I'm still learning so much. There's always so much more to learn, but it's been a really great thing to just diving into the human design. And the reason I wanted it is because I work with so many of students through yoga teacher training who I start mentoring in the 200 hour and the 300 hour is really a mentorship program in my school, which is called Shanti Yoga Training School. So I thought, well, how cool would it be if I had this other aspect of them, their human design, and then maybe even from the beginning of the training, I could really help because I'm with them between 6 months to a year. So that's
Yeah.
a long time. And then I can really say, look, this is your natural stuff. And then we look at other things. There's centers which
Mm.
are open centers defined, which is actually
Yeah.
correlated to the chakras in yoga.
Yes.
So it's very meshing too. And to give them that right from the beginning as they're discovering their journey through yoga, yoga is body, mind, spirit, like you said, meditation,
Mhm.
breath, but then have this other thing that could give them such a tool. I thought that it goes so well together, and it really
Oh, yeah.
does.
It does. Knowledge is so powerful, and when you're able to help people understand just a little bit more about themselves, it's just so impactful because I always feel seen and heard. I'm like, "This makes so much sense the more that I
Hmm.
learn." But I also found yoga at a very young age, like in my
You
20s.
did?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was living in New York City, and I just felt like the energy was so intense, and I really needed to do something that was much more, I don't know, soothing for me. It allowed me to get grounded because I felt very not grounded in the city.
Yeah.
And how has your practice changed over the years? Right?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I'm curious about you too. But yeah, so much in my 20s. It was interesting because when I first came across yoga as a teen, it was actually through an aunt, and then I ended up really getting acquainted with the Hare Krishnas. So they're very Bhakti yoga for
Mhm.
people who know. And it was more about meditation scriptures, and I was dancing. That's how I ended up in kinesiology. So
Mm.
I had this physical practice that was very intense, dance, like ballet and modern dance. And
Yeah.
then in college, when I was in my 1920s, I started doing Ashtanga yoga. That was my first sort of physical practice. And it was very good for me because it was very matching with the level of dance that I had, because I was already dancing like semi professional. Then I actually went on to dance professionally for a few years. People who know and are listening, Ashtanga yoga is very intense. 6 days a week practice, an hour to 2 hour to 3 hours. And so that was my life for about 10 years. So the physical practice was very intense. And then it started changing. Then it became more of like a vinyasa flow, like a hatha yoga style, a blend, a lot of Iyengar mixed with the Ashtanga. Nowadays, I love restorative, I love yin. I also just move more of what my body's feeling like that day and not so much have to be so dogmatic or rigid about having to have this certain power yoga class or whatever it is, even though I come from that background. So I think that it has mellowed out a lot more. And days that I don't want to do a heavy physical practice, I'm totally fine doing like a yoga nidra practice or just sitting and meditating and drinking mindful tea practice. And I do feel that's my yoga. So the yoga has changed so much of just thinking I have to put myself through this and being that kind of tapas and discipline to now just being so much more of what does it feel for me today? What is going to serve me today when I step on my yoga mat? And the work for me really is to not be into what it has to be or what it looked like, but can I be in the present moment with the inquiry of, am I present enough to listen to my body? What does my body need? So it doesn't necessarily need to be a crazy physical practice every day from or even 3 times a week. It's just it changes. And I think part of the thing is also to not feel, which I think it's hard because of attachment, to not feel guilty if you're not like, oh, I'm not doing my physical practice is not like a full 1 hour vinyasa flow, whatever it is, but really to allow to be okay, santosha, contentment. This feels really good. And maybe today is just a few hip openers and a long shavasana. That's great. The fact that we're still moving, everybody's aging. So aging gracefully is a really beautiful thing. And understanding that your body is always changing. And I think one of the things that when we were talking on email, we're talking a little bit about kinesiology. That's where I feel like my kinesiology plays a role because I'm really interested in the joints and the synovial fluids and just lubricating the joints and the bone density as we age. And I think that one has to look at your practice when you're in your 40s and 50s and 60s and always be open and be really present to see that this is really serving me as a tool for yoga as a healing art and not so much like a performance art, and just really allowing this practice of beautiful practice of yoga to serve us where we're at. And this way, we're going to not be like getting injured by it because that can happen too when the ego gets in the way. That's, I think, the main thing. But I won't say it's, I got there. It's work every day. Of course, I have some days that I feel frustrated. I'm not doing 3 drop backs from standing like I used to when I was in my 20s and Ashtanga yoga. And then you have those moments. Why is this not happening? My lower back is hurting. But then you realize, okay, wait, that's why Patanjali says the yogis need to practice unattachment, even with your postures, right? And how can we be loving to ourselves when these thoughts are coming? It's a process, but it's a really interesting thing. Again, to be curious and to stay in the present moment with all that comes. What do you think?
Yeah, no, my experience is very similar to yours. I think when I started, it was very much a physical practice and Ashtanga and also power, Baron Baptiste, power yoga. And I had a home practice. I had a daily practice, and I would also practice for about an hour and a half because I was raising little kids in my 20s. And then over time, I just got more curious about the other limbs of yoga. And so moving just away from just the asanas and started meditating and then signed up for yoga teacher training. And I had one teacher who came from the Shivananda classic yoga practice
Mm-hmm.
lineage and the other one from a Kundalini perspective. And they also had very different skills, complementary. One loved studying yogic philosophy, and the other one
Mm-hmm.
loved to also teach a lot about the body, so the anatomy, because she also did massage therapy. And so it was really a very beautiful, comprehensive yoga teacher training that I got to go through. And that really helped
In
deepen.
your 20s?
No, I did this in my 40s. So I
Oh,
started
okay.
practicing in my 20s, and then I went through yoga teacher training in my 40s just because I was more curious and I was at a different stage, I think, mentally of what I was interested in. And my kids were older, so I had time to focus on myself. And I already knew that I wanted to leave banking. And so this was like one of the first things that I did. The actions I started taking was to sign up for this. And it was such an amazing experience. Like you said, I think it was 9 months long. I can't remember exactly. It was a little
Oh,
under a
nice.
year. And while I was still working full time and doing all these things, but I remember just coming from there with this newfound appreciation for really going deeper into the history, the philosophy, the other
Mhm.
limbs of yoga, and really getting deep into a more personal practice. And then also discovering, while I was going through that, discovering yin and restorative and kundalini and just like these new types of yoga that I've never done before. And really practicing that non-attachment, like you said, not getting frustrated if I couldn't get into all the arm balances or if I couldn't do
Mhm.
something, and really learning to love and be kind to my body. My instructors had been teachers for so long and practitioners, and they'd had injuries, and they were really careful to make sure that we had good form and that we were practicing safely and not injuring ourselves, because Ashtanga is really hard with all the chaturangas. I had shoulder
Yes.
injuries, I had SI joint issues. Like I've had probably did things a little carelessly. And so it was beautiful to go through that and slow down. And then when I started teaching, which I didn't know if I would teach or not, or if I just wanted to go deeper
Mhm.
with my own practice. But now teaching 6 days a week in the morning, I never thought that would actually happen. It's just a nice little small yoga class before meditation. And I love bringing yoga to people who would not ever go into a yoga studio.
Wow. Do you teach online or do you
Yeah,
teach
online through Zoom.
online?
Yeah.
Okay.
I started during COVID. It was like one of those things where I just started teaching yoga and meditation. And so people get to do it online on Zoom before they go to work. And I love it. People just sometimes it's just 15 minutes, other days it's 30 minutes long or 45. But it's just a little bit of something to get your day started with intention from the heart, really focusing in
Yeah.
on being kind to our bodies and connecting our breath. And yeah, so
Yeah.
it's definitely changed. I feel like there's definitely wisdom that comes with getting older.
I do too. And what's interesting is that I did have a really strong meditation practice and scriptures practice because that's what I really got into when I was a teenager, going to the ashrams and stuff.
Yeah.
So that in a way was already there, but it was more the physical practice that was very intense for me. But thinking, and even just talking to you, and I've thought about this, I also think I'm really grateful that I had that intensity when I was like 19, 20, 22, whatever it was, because I needed that. When I was coming from a background of dancing, sometimes rehearsing 5, 6, 7 hours a day. I went to school with a scholarship in dance college. I needed, so when I found the vinyasas and that kind of strong practice like Ashtanga, it was really great because then I thought, okay, this now is the complete package. Now I can do the physical and I can have all this other mindful stuff that I love doing because I had them separated. I dance for my physical stuff, and then I have this yoga that I love, which is the bhakti yoga. But then the marriage of them having found the physical. So, in a way, it really served me for those first 10 years. And I'm really grateful that I had that. I'm just saying this because I think it's also really great that people, everybody, like yoga will meet you where you're at. So right now we have people in their 20s or their teens and they're practicing hot yoga is really intense or whatever it is that they're called to, and to just trust that too, and it's always changing. And maybe in that moment, whatever the practice is, even if it's just restorative, and not just, that's an amazing practice, by the way, then trust that also this is what you need in that moment, and without the judgment. And just again, like you said, and I think we both said the same thing, just be present for the evolution and be present for whatever it is that needs to change. I wouldn't go back and had it a different way. I
Yeah.
feel like it was good that I did that way.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely don't see myself doing Ashtanga hour and a half,
Mhm.
6 days a week anymore. It just
Yeah.
was really intense, and there's beauty in that too. It's like consistent poses.
And discipline, and especially when someone is still developing and they're in their younger years, I think, at least I can speak for myself, for me it really was great because it kept me away from a lot of things that I could have gone, like maybe
Unhealthy.
addictions or
Yeah,
unhealthy stuff, or going out all the time or whatever it was, it would be that I didn't, because I had to be on my yoga mat the next morning. So that sort of informed my entire life. That
yeah.
practice was so important for me. So I couldn't really drink, and of course I did it a few times, then I couldn't really practice, but it's very revealing. The mat is like such a mirror. So you end up just not, I have to eat healthy or this is, you just do it because you have to get, if you want to get on your yoga. So that's the discipline, the tapas, that I think sometimes it can be so helpful in someone's life, especially if you're going through a time that maybe
Mm,
you really need that.
yeah. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
true. It is such a mirror, and it's so comforting too. I just think of, you just never know what you are going to find when you get onto that mat. And sometimes, so often, I've been in postures, and I was like, start crying, and you're like, wait, what is happening here? But it's been such a gift to me in my life. But tell me a little bit more about
Mhm.
why you started your podcast, Life on Earth. Tell me about the
Life on
title.
Earth. It's Life on the podcast is called Life on Earth Podcast, and we started it in 2017. At that point, I had a yoga studio for about 4.5 years. We already had teacher trainings, and we would sometimes have these amazing guest teachers come to give a talk in the yoga teacher trainings. This is at the local studio. So the students who were there would get the talk and they would be really excited. And then I think someone at the studio said, or I said, I can't remember, we should record this for other people that are not present. Or maybe it was like students who were not present asked, can you record it? So I got like a recording machine and I was just recording them to give it to the other students, these talks with different guest teachers. We always had guest teachers come for presentations, maybe a couple of times a month. And it was that then developed into, wait a minute, now there's this thing called podcasts. Why don't we just put these talks up? And then that way, not just our little community here can listen to it, because these are such great talks. And we were interviewing at that time Ayurveda masters and all these different things, a meditation, and we can just put it on the podcast. And it was just like that. It was very organic. So the intention originally was just for our community to just, now we're just going to put it on the podcast. It's up online. Anybody can access that. And from there, as podcasts are, is just really beautiful, because then it started growing and people now can access them all over the world. And here we are, however many years later, and it's like episode 120 something. Again, I can't even believe what happened. It's just, it's very natural and it just organically grew, and it's really cool. Personally, I love it because I've always loved interviewing people and asking people questions and getting their perspectives on different things in life. I love learning for myself and I love sharing the knowledge.
Yeah.
So the podcast is great because then you can connect with these amazing, inspiring people, and everybody can learn and put something really positive in the world, which is a positive blueprint, I think, these podcasts, which is great. We need more of that. For me, as a journalism major too, originally journalism, really how I was taught, and I had some great journalism teachers, is that it's very unbiased. You just tell a story or you interview, and this is what's happening, factual. And whoever is reading or listening, they make their own choices and opinions. Nowadays, fast forward, the media is just really so biased, so much of it. And so seeing how things can be very tinted or manipulated or edited to sound a certain way, for me, it was really interesting. Okay, to have these people who are independent and even like small podcasters. When I say small, just because you're not like Fox or CNN, whatever, but and you are now interviewing people and just putting it as is into the world, is journalism, just to me, is what really is about. And then just allowing the community or the listeners to figure out if they like it, if they don't, if they connect with something. So because we have so much that is tainted out there in terms of media, television and radio and all that, I think that it's a really great balance to have independent podcasters because this is a thing. We can just record and put it up there. And I think we need that in the world to balance things out right now, which is great. I get a lot of my really great information nowadays from really good podcasters.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I love listening to podcasts. What are some of your favorite shows that you like to listen to?
I'm trying to think here if there's like something. I sometimes listen to Rich Roll podcasts. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh,
Okay,
I love.
I love his wife, who's one of my teachers. She has a beautiful, she only posts once in a while, but it's called
Yeah.
Divine Through Light. And then now I think it's called The Life of Me because she changed the name. Her name is Julie Pyatt Srimati. So she's one of my mentors. So I listen to all of her stuff. Once in a while, I listen to Joe Rogan, which is so random, but I'm really getting some of his guests. I like the raw perspective and how that can also be. And then, completely unrelated, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts because I just love that genre. But that's more for my own entertainment. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I love finding new
yeah,
podcasts all the time and just listening to just various topics. It's so hard when
yeah.
some of them are so long. They
Yes,
go really in. I love Rich Roll. I also like listening to Dr. Andrew Huberman,
I
but
do too.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
like over 2 hours long. There's so many that I listen to and I mix it up just depending on what it is that I'm
yeah.
looking for. But yeah, what has been some of your biggest learnings about yourself or just about the world as you've been doing your podcast interviews?
Just the interviewing some of these people that I love and being able to connect with them like that one-on-one and learning what their life trajectory has been and that everybody has ups and downs and we're all
Yeah.
humans. We all have a lot in common, actually. And we're just trying to figure this thing out. Some of us have figured some things more than others. And I think it's very inspiring to me to talk to some of these teachers and have them share their stories. And I think that I've learned so much from them about everything. And
Yeah,
it just gives me inspiration to keep moving forward to with what I'm doing. Yeah. And
absolutely.
you, what do you feel like when you interview your guests?
It's just such a wonderful way to meet people that I wouldn't ordinarily meet from all over the world, which is just such a gift. And I always
Mhm.
learn something. I'm very curious, so I always learn something about what other people are doing, or they might share a resource, or you just never know where these connections will go. And I do
Mhm.
feel like when we are able to be so present, I think what I've learned is that when you're interviewing is just to be so present in the conversation, and that spills over into just being more mindful in everyday life because I'm not taking notes. I actually don't read questions off a script. I do the research before, which helps me know who you are and have some idea of what I want to make sure we cover. But it's just so nice. It's like wonderful training for just how to be a human again and have a human connection with a complete stranger through
Yes.
technology. You add all the, and then it's like, wow, that should be so much easier to do with my family, with my friends, with other people
Mhm.
in real life too.
Mhm. Yeah, and then how great it is that you're bringing that to your listeners too, that you
Right.
bring different peoples with different set of qualities. It's a great sharing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a gift. It's beautiful. It's a lot of work, but it's so rewarding as well. So,
Yeah.
I want to talk about your yoga teacher training because
Mhm.
one, it is a lot of hard work putting those trainings together
Mhm.
all the time,
Yeah.
and it's a big time commitment. Do you feel like you differentiate yourself from other yoga teacher trainings, or what are some of the
Mhm.
elements that you always make sure are included in your program that maybe aren't included in some other people's programs?
Mhm. I think it is because I have such a unique background. When I was in like 1920, that was one of my first trips to India, and I stayed 3 months, and then I went 3 more times for 3 months each time, and studying with Patabi Joyce and being in that Indian culture for almost 10 years, it really shaped my understanding of yoga at a very deep level. For me, yoga really starts with my own personal practice. My teachings is simply a sharing of my practice. So if I'm not practicing, I should really have no business teaching. And whatever I'm teaching is something that I am familiar with. So I don't believe the background I come from, I should say, we don't teach what we're not practicing kind of thing. And it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect or you got gold stars for it. It just means you're in the process of it. And we're all humans. We fall off the horse, we get back on the horse. So that's just part of the whole picture. But my sadhana, my personal practice has always been something that's very sacred to me. And so I create space in my day. And I guess I'm very fortunate to, but also I should say, I should give myself the credit and say that I've also designed my life so that I could do that. And I think there's something to that too. But whatever the morning, the sadhana is, whether it's tea ceremony or meditation or yoga, asana and meditation or journaling, I'm always, or learning, reading the scriptures or whatever it is, there's always something that I am consistently doing. And so my training really has that kind of feel, and I think it's very clear to the participants from the beginning that this really comes from a place of deep self practice. And so everyone in the training is very much inspired to cultivate their own practice, whatever they look like, that looks like to them. And I'm happy to be a guide of support to just allow them, to assist them. I don't even like the word help, but assist them in finding out what is it that they want in this moment and what are the tools that they can have. So I try to be present with them because knowing that everyone is different. So I don't have a dogmatic thing like this is it, the black and white. I love that. I want them to design what that feels like for them and then really motivate them to practice. Patabi Joy's had a quote that says, practice and all is coming, or 99% practice, 1% theory. Those are two quotes that I really love. And I think that they have been ingrained in me. So to answer your question, other than that, it's very classical yoga because it comes from a place, again, that I really learned most of my stuff, just this, the lineage of Krishnamacharya, India, coming where the birth of yoga, where yoga really came from. And I am open to evolution. I do have this other side of me of kinesiology and wanting to know how things are always changing and evolving. And I do keep myself updated on all that. My students know I'm very passionate about yoga sequencing and anatomy and all of that. But I also have this other side that really wants to keep the tradition. I feel like one of my missions is to keep the tradition of yoga alive, the birth of yoga, where it comes from, the rituals and ceremonies. And I love all of the Iyengar lineage. I love the Ashtanga lineage. So the training is half Iyengarish, Ashtanga-ish. It's a Krishnamacharya training. Students learn very deeply the sutras, Patanjali sutras, the 8 limbs of yoga, history of yoga, and then asana, and having asana as a practice for them, again, whatever that looks like. And then we also look at other forms of practice such as yoga nidra. We go deep into that, and which is like frequency, energy, vibration. So we look at that. And then meditation, it's very oriented towards meditations and really just this big self inquiry. What I've had a lot of students say is that the training really transformed entirely their lives, and not only their lives, but their families, like their husbands or wives or kids, that it was like, wow. And it's not attributed to me. And that's the point that I'm trying to make too. Yes, I'm a conduit. I'm sure I'm there. And the only way I can do that is by being present to my own practice, right? If I'm present to my own practice, I can be open to receive and be a conduit for that information to transmit to them. But really, it's not me. I'm simply passing the ball, passing the torch. This is something that has been around for thousands of years. And I have learned from teachers, and my teachers have learned from their teachers. And we come from a lineage that tries to keep things with a lot of integrity. And we believe in yoga, this art form, where it comes from. And so it's just me transmitting something that has been around for a really long time. And we have a lineage of teachers that one has passed the ball into the next one through generations. And that's a really beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the training really has, this first hands down of information. I think that we're getting not that far away from the Krishnamacharya lineage. And that's really special because as yoga is evolving, and again, that may be great for some people because we need everything out there. But
Yeah,
there's a lot of watered down stuff too.
sure.
So this training is not that. It's very much like the birth of where it comes from, and then people can get that information and they can do whatever they want with it. That can translate to them. I don't force anything on people either. I'm always about, what does this mean to you? I
Sure.
always ask them the question. And that's another thing that I think it's really powerful, because as a teacher, to allow your student to evolve the way that they are ready for and that they're receiving the information, how they're going to interpret it into their life, that's really all I want. I'm not telling them like how to think, what to do, what to not do. I'm just here supporting them in this journey of soul transformation, self realization. And it is up to each and every one of them, and us, myself included, to do it in our own way, our own unique way.
Sure. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if folks want to work with you, what is the best way that they can find you?
You can reach out to me on my Instagram is at Nathalie Croix, Nathalie Croix. You can always DM me. My website is nataliecroix.com. I have some of my personal stuff there. And the yoga school website is Shanti Yoga Training School.com. And we have trainings consistently in various places in the country. And we also have online, all virtual trainings as well, with live online, like live stream. So the school is consistently having trainings. And that was one of the reasons why I closed my yoga studio right before the pandemic, is because I really transitioned into wanting to focus on my yoga teacher training school. And I think that's one of the things that differentiate us too. This is really, for the last, since 2019, this is mainly what I do 6 times a week. We, I have other teachers that I work with, and we are yoga teacher trainers. This is the main part of the business. We do it all the time. We do it all year long. It's
Oh, okay.
nonstop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So cool.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll definitely have those links in. And then I ask everyone a final question, which is, what does it mean to you to live the width of your life?
For me, what that means is really everything that's going on in my life. So, meaning my animals, spending time with my animals is a priority to me. I think that also what that means is being passionate about having hobbies. I highly recommend, whether it's cooking something, getting better at it. Like, I've been really into sourdough bread cooking for the past year. I have so many different passions. I'm boating, horses. I horseback ride. I own 2 horses. For me, is really the bigger picture. I'm also like a foodie, so I love reading books about culinary and cooking and going to restaurants and finding out places that are really exciting to visit for food. So just whatever that is to each human is going to be different, but don't forget that there's always something more to find joy and to learn. And when we're little kids, we get to go to swim lessons, dance lessons, art lessons. And then what happens when we get to our 20s and after school? We sort of like, no, now we just take our children to that. What about you? Like, you can take a pottery class, you can go. It's never too late to learn anything. In fact, keep that child and that quality of childlike mind your entire life. You're going to make new friends if you go to an art class. You're going to learn a new community. So for me, I have this aspect of my life that I love. That's the yoga and my trainings and my students. And my students know that I have all these other things going on too that are completely unrelated to yoga, and that I love them just as much. That's the width for me of life, is embracing it all and making it all its own thing and beautiful and a big part of the big picture.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Nathalie. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our
Thank you.
conversation, and just continued success to you.
Thank you so much.